Hey everybody, it's Mandy from Shop Forge. So it is a sunny Sunday. Our garden is not quite up yet. So if you've been following, our garden is going right here. This was kind of hillish, so Zad and Matt had to do a lot of leveling, and then no sooner we got it leveled, and it's seriously just been raining for like 2 months straight, it feels like. So we're not quite ready, and Matt was on a hike for the month of April, and then he worked for a couple weeks outside the house or whatever. So I'm going to show you what I'm doing to get by until the garden is ready, because I had started a bunch of plants inside under the grow lights. So today we have a bunch of big pots. I got a pile of pots here. Bud's getting a hose ready for me. We got our potting soil here in a big barrel. And basically what I'm doing is I am just taking all of my little seedlings. I don't have a ton, but I don't have a ton, but it'll be enough to get me, you know, a little bit further ahead. So, none of my peppers made it. So my dad had given me a couple pepper plants, so those are started. This is not ideal, obviously. This is not going to sustain them long term, but it'll be enough. Ooh, this one's starting to get flowers. It'll be enough to get me by. We should hopefully be able to get the garden ready in the next, I'm hoping, week or two. So I don't love that I need to transplant them twice, but I think it'll probably work. It'll probably be okay. So we got one bag of the Pro Mix potting soil, and I'm basically just kind of splitting them up. Obviously these tomatoes I had seeded pretty heavily, so I'm gonna need to split some of those up. I have melons in here, so there's some cantaloupe, some watermelon. I'm not super anal about labeling. I pretty much tackle this the way I tackle my pantry. I pretty much know what it is, what genre it is, and then what species it is, or however that goes. It's fine, it's all the same to me. So I have those watermelon, I have the tomatoes. Jamie and Zuzu started some herbs here. We got the peppers. This is melons I need to finish up yet. And then over here I have some Brussels sprouts, some chard and kale, a few onions, and a few celery. I've never been super successful with onions. I may try to do like a late summer planting, see if I can't get some to come up in the fall or whatever. If I don't, hopefully I can just source like a couple 50-pound bags or something from a local farmer, and we'll just have to do the best we can for this year. So there are several things that I didn't start, like cucumbers, zucchini, lots of different herbs I didn't start. Some of these bigger pots, if I don't need them for up potting, and like some of these tomatoes, I could probably thin to the point where there's just like one in this, and it would buy me enough time until the garden is ready. Because I'd like to reserve some of these bigger ones to have just sitting around the garden, some mint, some chives, things like that. We're gonna put a perennial garden out front where the berries are, but we're not quite ready for that. We did several black raspberry bushes that set up. The strawberry boxes are set up, but no strawberries or dirt in them yet. So it's a slow process. We got to move our camper. We got to get our camper pad finished up. But I can still grow food while we're waiting. So I can use these to do some perennials like mint and chives. I could put some lavender in these. Maybe I've never been super successful with chamomile, but try to get some chamomile in there. I'd love to get that dried and on the shelf. So we're going to work on this today, and I'll show you what it looks like when we're done, and then hopefully that'll time me over until the garden's ready. All right, so I probably had like 80, I'm thinking, tomatoes started. I always go big on the tomatoes. So I decided to put like 50 of them out. I really want to do a good bit of ketchup and barbecue sauce. Definitely barbecue sauce. I have spicy barbecue sauce on the shelf, but we're totally out of not spicy, so we've kind of been like combining it with the ketchup that I canned to like make it not as spicy for the kids. So these are all ready to go. These few that are left here, we're just gonna feed them to the chickens. There was a few. I had like some cabbage, broccoli, and something else. They were okay sprouts, but frankly it's probably going to be too warm to put those out anyway, so I'll just try a fall planting of them, and it's fine. Those aren't like, we do need cabbage for sure, and if we have to, we can go get cabbage from a local farmer. We can typically find it for $1 or $1.50 a head, you know, later in the fall, so that we can make sauerkraut. If we don't get broccoli, I'm not that upset about it. Tomatoes are a big focus. I don't really need a ton of peppers. So these 3 plants I'm kind of happy with. I have a lot of canned peppers of different varieties. I have dried peppers hanging. I have frozen peppers. So I really don't need to do a ton of peppers. So these will be good just for fresh eating. So the good thing is I still have about half a barrel here. The kids are playing bubbles with the dog, and the dog is hysterical with the bubbles. So, oh my gosh, and the bees. So what I'm going to do is I have this pile of big pots here. I'm going to go in and get my seed boxes, and I'm going to put some herbs in these. And some of these might get transplanted out once the perennial garden's up. Some of them might just live in pots. My mom's had some pots of chives for like 10 years or more, and they come back every year. They're the most reliable plant ever, I think. So I'm going to get some of those in, and I'm going to get these. Well, they might need to live here. My tricky part here until the garden's done is I seriously thought about putting them on the roof because they'll get a bunch of sun, but it's like metal. It might get too hot, and it's not realistic to cart them all up there. But I need to keep them away from the dog and away from the kids until the garden is up. I can pretty much tell the kids not to, and they'll probably not mess with them, but the dog is a whole nother story. He's only like 12 weeks old, so we're definitely still in like a no and yes stage. So I want to make sure that I have enough space for cucumber, zucchini. We don't use a ton of zucchini, but we like it with a meal, you know, a few meals over the summer fresh. We love cucumbers though. So I want to make sure I have plenty of room, and I love trellising cucumbers and things like that. So the things that are going to be direct sowed, I want to make sure I have plenty of room for. So what my plan is, slightly experimental, is you can do 4 basil plants per square foot if you follow square foot gardening. You can do 2 parsley plants per square foot gardening. So I put 4 basil plants in here. I'm not sure how many parsleys. Oh, I have another basil in here. Maybe I'll split the basil up. Maybe I'll do like 2 and 3. And then I want to do like 2 parsleys in a pot. So I think there'll be enough dirt. I think we'll make it work. If they seem like they're struggling, I could always move them in with the tomatoes and they'll probably be fine. This was a little kit that my parents got, the littles, and they planted these. So it's very exciting that these grew. So I feel like I should mention that I am definitely not a master gardener. I've been gardening like seriously for probably 5 years. And then I like kind of dabbled in like little gardening when we had our little postage stamp backyard. When we moved to our last house where we had 3 acres, I had a decent sized garden. Then I like really started like, I don't know if I was gardening seriously. Like I don't like study what needs nitrogen and like all these, and like I wish I did, but I like to garden for the fact that I like the harvest so that I can preserve food. I'm not necessarily like a diehard about how things should be and whatever. I sort of love just like experiment, see what happens, throw things in the ground, see what becomes of it or whatever. So I usually tend to push the limits of square foot gardening. So this is probably darn close to a foot. We're going to put 2 in there. I think it's probably going to be fine. I'd love to get more herbs growing. 1, to dry for eating, for seasoning food. And then 2, I'd love to get into more medicinal herbs and just start to like build up our inventory of that kind of stuff. That might not happen so much this year. Once, you know, I definitely want to get some perennial herbs out front. And then whatever I need to grow like each year that are annual type things. You know, we just seriously hit no, we haven't even lived here. What month is it? May. We haven't even lived here a year yet. So we're getting there. We have, you know, we're getting projects done. I've mentioned before, my garden is in a pile there. I have a couple cold frames and things. So we're moving towards the goals. And right now my goal is to just get some food in the ground. You know, most of my tomatoes are 90 to 110 days, something like that. So best case scenario, I have tomatoes in like August. Worst case is September. Frankly, in September, it's still pretty darn warm in Pennsylvania, so I'm not super concerned. We should still get a pretty decent harvest. I have these, I think they're like actually for pictures, like when we printed pictures when we were kids. I think they're called photo. I'll find it and link it in the description. Anyway, I love these for seeds. Frankly, I'm kind of outgrowing this box, but it still works. So I got my little herb box here. I'm gonna go out and get, I don't even know what I actually have in here, but I'm gonna try to get some herbs started in plants and started in pots. And then I'd really like to use all that dirt so it doesn't just like sit there and like sop up water. I could put it like in a covered container and but I might as well get whatever started that I can. All right, so I'm done. This took us probably 2 hours or so. I wound up putting mostly basil, dill, and sage from seed into these pots. My thought, and I know it seems sort of silly because I put the tomatoes in these teenies and the herbs in these, but my thought is that these are going to stay in these. I'm just going to put them, like sit them around the garden with the raised beds. I did that in Conestoga and it worked pretty well at our old house. So this went well. So we have like several pots of herbs going. I have my watermelon. We have the watermelon, peppers, tomatoes. And yeah, some more herbs up here. So I'm excited to see how this goes. I think we're going to get some food from it. I don't think we're going to get none. It just might not be quite as early as everybody else, which is fine. So again, I'm not an expert, but if you have questions, if you're kind of not particular, pretty much, you know, the way I am with everything else, type of gardener, if you have any questions, let me know. We'll see you next time.